All right, that looks like that's up. Oh, all right. So today's probably going to be a fairly short one. I have a just mind-shattering headache, plus the polarized glasses to make these screens even tolerable to be in front of. But I figured we take advantage of this time and the current surge in shrieking leftist insanity and dumb claims and all this shit related to the whole Trump Putin meeting thing and them all wigging out and suddenly all of them being PhDs in political science and it's kind of funny. There's quite a bit to go through. Plus we have the benefit of making use of the bulk of human knowledge compiled all in one place, also known as the internet, which gives us this incredible ability to cross reference and dig up things that may not be floating around the forefront of people's minds. Things they've long but forgotten or didn't even exist at the time of. So, context. That beautiful thing we love around here, context. It's a good one. I recommend it. But yeah, we're gonna start with everybody's favorite idiot, Jake Tapper. He's a good one. So I guess let's watch a bit of this and laugh at this idiot.
I am sure most of you watching the Alaska summit on Friday, no matter what you think about President Trump, I'm sure most of you hoped that he was going to be able to pull off what he seemed confident he could, to get Putin to agree to a ceasefire and then ultimately on a path to end this horrific war on Ukraine. I know that
I'm not sure why everybody thinks that like Trump's supposed to be magic and somehow going to be able to like bend the knee of a sovereign nation in a situation that Trump's really not even a part of. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, Russia didn't invade the US. The US isn't fighting Russia. The fact that anybody has even thought that Trump really has much ability to sway this outside of, oh, if you keep doing it, we'll keep giving them weapons, of which, I mean, you can keep giving them weapons. Russia's got quite a few people, and as we've seen, the field of battle is dramatically changing nowadays. You know what I mean? The era of the tank is basically all but gone. The infantry fighting vehicle still has a small place in modern combined arms combat, but the tank is kind of a thing of the past, given the payloads that can be delivered by FPV drone, which more or less almost all but guarantee, if not direct hits generally good enough to disable a tank. So they're large, large complements of armor and relatively unagile in relative terms. Let's be real, modern tanks are fairly agile for the fact that they weigh somewhere in the ballpark of 100,000 pounds. But they just don't carry the benefit that they once carried. So with that dramatically changing, the exhaustion of the majority of Russia's tanks really means very little. You could have all the tanks you want. FPV drones are cheaper, they're easier to operate. In my opinion, you're kind of looking at a losing battle all the way through, because the new technology addresses all the difficult aspects to address that once were main battle tanks. Short of a dramatic improvement in some sort of anti-drone defense capability, which, let's be honest, the Russians already tried with jammers, and the drones very quickly switched over to being guided by fiber optic wire, which can't be jammed. So, what exactly even is arguably feasible? You can't jam them. So electronic warfare is more or less out the window. I suppose you could compile some sort of complicated system utilizing radars and high-powered lasers, and if not disable the drone, at a bare minimum, like, damage its optical sensors, thereby maybe improving your chances of it not striking your tank directly. But arguably, what is that going to cost in the grand scheme of a tank's total cost, which is quite a bit higher than FPV drones? And on the same note, is it going to be enough to make the drone usage even close to comparable to the expenditure of the cost of the tank? Almost certainly not. But that aside, I don't really, that's what I mean when I say I don't really know why people expect that Trump is somehow going to magically be able to do this. I mean, yeah, no, obviously he's said, oh, this and that, and it would have never started, and that's politicians, bro. That's what they all do. Right? They all say shit and proclaim shit, and does any of it actually like hold fucking water at the end of the day? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. That's how it goes. That's the political game. And anyone pretending that this is exclusively a Trump thing, you're delusional. We could sit here for days, months, years, digging up video of countless historical presidents, politicians, this, that's, and everything else from all over the world saying, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and sure the fuck enough, that shit just don't ever get done. So, like, but this one just strikes me as a bit delusional. How is a third party not involved outside of, you know what I mean? That'd be like Smith and Wesson coming out and saying, we're gonna stop the gang violence by talking to the people in the gangs that we know and saying, if you don't stop, we'll give more weapons to the other gang. It doesn't hold the weight that people think it holds. Now, sure, utilizing these tactics against something like, say, Pakistan or India, these are significantly smaller countries in terms of land volume. They have significantly less available resource, and they rely heavily on import-export trade deals. You can flex that strength in situations like that. It doesn't work so much when you're dealing with something like Russia. That's why we had the Cold War. Russia is amply stocked with the things it can utilize to carry on more or less independently and more or less indefinitely. So how are you going to economically strong-arm something that's basically capable of doing what I did in real life, which is to self-sufficientize? I mean, Roxas, yeah, I'm right there with you. I believe he's gotten a lot of good stuff done, and nobody's perfect. Yeah, it's insane for anyone to expect that he could ever achieve every promise he's made, but he's trying, right? And that's what he was elected for, right? Was to try. He's not magic, you know what I mean? He's not fucking Shaq's Kazam from the 90s, you know what I mean? Cross his arms and will be done. Like, bro, the dude's not magic. He's gonna give it his best shot, and that's what he's doing. And he's got to do it amidst these people here, these shrieking leftist retards, just being shrieking leftist retards. And it's wild that they think he exactly right. You you know, we're logical adults. We understand you can't force another adult to do something. Very much the same for nations, unless your nation is significantly more powerful, i.e., the example of America and Pakistan. Yes, Pakistan is significantly weaker. So when a country like America says, you're going to do what we say or we'll stop trading, that's a big deal. That just isn't a big deal for a large country like Russia. The same, it's not really a big deal for a large country like China, which is exactly why the two of them are generally considered to be America's contemporaries. Oh, God, yeah, no, they were horrible. I mean, nothing got done under them. And let's be honest, there's a huge argument that neither one of them did anything. The whole auto pen scandal and jeez, you know what I mean? So yeah, this man's at least trying, you know what I mean? And to be fair, from a lot of stuff I've seen, Biden had a opportunity to nip this in the bud before it ever turned into anything. And he basically, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but the gist of it seemed to be he told Putin, well, you know, if you only take a little land, well, we won't care. I'm not quoting the man directly, but I've seen many things that seem to imply that that was the stance Biden held. So then, absolutely, who would not take a little bit of land? You know, he said he won't do anything if we just take a little. That like, you know what I mean? That like, but no, nobody wants to talk about that. That's just in the ether, mystery, nothing. Oh, Biden, haha. They drive me crazy. I mean, I'm like, you know, Jesus. I'm 20 seconds into a video, been on a 12-minute rant already. These people, they just have this way of firing you up, but not on their side. But I want to see a bit more of what Jake Dipshit here has to say.
That I was hoping that. I mean, who wouldn't want to end this bloodshed? Hundreds of thousands dead, all of it prompted by Putin ordering the invasion of this sovereign nation, Ukraine, in early.
Ordering the invasion after being more or less given assurances by the Biden administration that as long as he only invaded a little bit of land, America and NATO wouldn't get involved. See, I love that. They just kind of gloss past those important parts in the very beginning. You know what I mean? They gotta just do the mental gymnastics so they can put it all on Trump's plate and then go, see, it was Trump. No, sorry. This started before Trump, guys.
Even Trump's nemesis and 2016 rival, Hillary Clinton, said that if Trump were able to pull it off, she personally would nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize.
I found this one funny. I saw this little clip the other day, and I like how he's trying to sell it as a straight-faced and actual statement. Watch the way she says this shit if he shows it, and tell me this isn't the most incredulous and obviously like underhanded, it'll never happen, we'll make sure of it, in my opinion. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm no body language expert like CNN dragged out, which I'll get to at some point after this.
If he could end it without putting Ukraine in a position where it had to concede its territory to the aggressor.
Look at that shit-eating grin. And the idea that this could be put to an end without the Ukraine ceding some territory, that hope is long gone. That's been gone since like year one rolled around. The only way to really achieve any kind of hope for peace is to have some meeting in the middle, which unfortunately for the Ukraine may include the concession of some ground. Is it right? No, it's not. It isn't right that the Ukraine should have to concede some ground, but at the same time, you got to kind of pick your poisons. You know, you could argue we'll fight until we get every last inch back, and Russia can go, okay, well, we'll fight till every last one of you's gone. Then guess what? You just ceded all of Ukraine. So this aversion to an attempt to meet in the middle is only drawing things out further. And yes, no, you don't, it's not right to reward people's aggressions and whatever, but I'm you know, we hold on, I got it here. Where is it? Is this one? Territorial expansions of Russia since the collapse of the Soviet Union. So 91 on was what I was trying to look for, because, you know, including Soviet Union Russia seemed a little disingenuous to me, because prior to the 90s and such, there were no agreements that nobody would encroach on each other, and that's this one here. Yeah, declassified documents show security assurances against NATO expansion towards the east when Gorbachev and them all made the agreements that led to the end of the Cold War, or, you know, at least started the catalyst that rapidly fueled the end of the Cold War and the subsequent collapse of the Soviet Union. Where is it? It's in here. Yeah, it talks about they were led to, the key phrase buttressed by the documents is led to believe. The gist of it being, they worded things in a particular way, implying that NATO nations would not go even an inch eastern, you know, towards the Soviet Union. This is a very large document. Let's just see if we can control F. Oh, sorry, I think it was not one. Oh, there it is, yeah. The United States keeps its presence in Germany within the framework of NATO, but not an inch of NATO's present military jurisdiction will spread in an eastern direction. NATO has spread quite a bit. Do I have that map? I don't think I found that map. But NATO has spread quite a bit east since then, scooping up countries that, you know, they had agreed originally that they wouldn't. To me, that sounds like a violation of the agreement made in 1990. That's why is that not mentioned? You know, they want to talk that Putin's the monster here. Well, we did it without violence. I mean, arguably, we did it through underhanded, shady CIA methods and, you know, collapsing of governmental parties and things like that. And that whole game that America loves to play and then pretend they didn't play. Come on now. This is just kids playing Monopoly, bro. ABC, as Asmongold would say, always be cheating. All of them, every nation, they're always cheating. All the parties, cheating. They're only mad when they're losing because they know they're getting cheated. But, so, you know, arguably, NATO violated its original agreements, and it has encroached into quite a few of Russia's places. Dark Prince, see, you can say that. Divisive rhetoric. The left engages in divisive rhetoric every day. You know, they do it with just disingenuous intent, no less. Like, you know, look at the shooting in New York, the possibly white man. You're going to tell me that's not direct divisive rhetoric? And I'm not saying, you know, that him being a person of color, it makes him by default violent. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's just the fact that, exactly, like Merton Esper's saying, they both use these deceitful tactics. They both use the exact same cheats. They're all fucking scamming. The Democrats are only mad because right now they're losing. The second they're not losing, none of these little cheat tactics will mean a damn thing to them again until they start losing again. Dark Prince, I'm sorry if Streamlabs trimmed your message. I haven't really figured out its Autobot. It's kind of still new to me. And yeah, there are issues like climate change and healthcare. I find the healthcare one to be kind of debatable. And the climate change one, America's the smallest drop in the bucket on that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with wanting to not destroy the planet. All right, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we're already making massive leaps and bounds, and in America have been since I think the 50s, to, you know, try and keep things like our environments clean and the you know, the planet vaguely healthy. We can't control what other nations do. You know, we all hear this stuff about the great garbage patch in the Pacific, and that's fucking horrifying. Absolutely. I do not disagree with you for a second that that is not absolutely a horrifying thing. But it doesn't all come from us. And that's the thing. If we make an effort to improve as America, talking just America, the country itself, not anywhere else in the world, we're roughly, I'll be generous, we'll call it 350 million people, which is part of a global population of somewhere close to 8 billion people. America's like 3 or 4% of the global population. So we can do all the efforts we want and make all the attempts we want. But realistically, everything we could ever do in terms of trying to fight climate change as Americans is basically overturned in a single day by the roughly 3 to 4 billion people in India and China who are making zero efforts to protect our climate. Yeah, I don't know how Streamlabs' thing is weird. I don't know why it wants to limit. It's telling me it's limiting it because it's a long message. Why would a long message matter, Streamlabs? I don't know. Their thing updated recently, and it has just been an absolute shit show. For that, I truly do apologize to you, Dark Prince, because I do want to see what you have to say, and, you know, I want to, at least in good faith, you know, engage in discussion about these things that you're trying to reference. I am not trying to have it like trim you off, because that just does not lend itself to any kind of discussions. But, you know, climate change, healthcare, the reason I find that one to be debatable is generally in the United States, health bills you cannot be pursued for. So you really just don't pay them, and nothing happens. I mean, sure, it'll damage your credit score for a few years. Yeah. But your credit score should really only be like an important thing like 3 or 4 times in your life. You know, you're talking financing a car, financing a home, and maybe a business loan. Outside of those few instances, you can have no credit score. If you're making enough money to survive, credit be damned, you can live without credit. Like, I've done it. I do it. Credit is designed to take advantage of the most vulnerable of us anyways. So in my opinion, the healthcare one, you go to a hospital, they'll help you. They'll give you a bill, and arguably the bills are super huge because at least what I've been led to believe by various videos from people in the medical fields and things like that that I don't readily have on hand. But they generally say, yeah, exactly, Merton. Same here. I've never financed a car in my life. I own 15 of them. That's because I like to buy shit boxes and restore them. That's kind of a personal thing, but I'll never finance a car. And just like I didn't finance a property, I found cheap property out in the woods that I can be self-sufficient with. I didn't need a credit score. So to say that having your credit ruined by medical bills is a life-ruining thing, it's not. They can't like attach to the value of your home and things like that. So that one I find debate, because the hospital will always help you. And like the people in the medical industry claim, I should say, they submit a bill to your medical insurance. Say you had a procedure. The procedure costs $10,000. They submit a bill to the insurance company. The insurance company goes, well, all right, we're going to cover 30% of that. So the hospital goes, okay, well, then let us just get everything tallied up and totaled, and then we'll get you, you know, the full comprehensive bill. I'm not saying everybody wants to live like me, you win TV. I'm just saying that credit is designed to allow people to live beyond their means, and it's designed in a predatory manner specifically. That's all I'm saying. I'm not discrediting people for using credit or anything like that. I'm just saying the credit system is designed to take advantage of poor people, realistically. But I mean, again, if you already have your house and you already have your car, the credit score means nothing. So that's what I guess that was more my point. It's not so much I took it to the extreme of self-sufficiency. Yes, that was a personal choice on mine. And I don't expect people to just want, you know, default think exactly like me. I understand people are different. I'm just saying that your credit score really only matters in a few instances of your life, and that's like major purchases that you're financing. Above droid, I mean, there's no argument about hot Asian women, is there? That's pretty much everybody's in agreement, or you know, or you might be racist. Like, how you gonna not like hot Asian women? But I guess what I was getting at is, you know, the system as it sits currently, it raises us, at least in America, it raises us to think that credit is something that we need. And if you look at it historically, credit is basically designed from the ground up to more or less create a pseudo slave class by burying people in debt. The worst of which is secured debt, that if you have anything happen, that secured item gets defaulted, and then you're out an item and you're out all the payments you had made up until that point of the item. Is there some part of that that doesn't at its core seem predatory? I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand there are people that require financing and use it and just get on with their lives just fine. And you can agree that they opted into it, and by that metric, they accepted this potentiality. Sure, but I mean, that doesn't make it not predatory. You know, by the same logic, people went out and they bought packs of cigarettes, and even after they knew the companies were putting chemicals in them to make them hard to get off of and all of that, people still go and smoke them. Does that make it not predatory that they intentionally put compounds in there to make it extra hard to quit smoking? You know what I mean? The one doesn't make the other. But, you know, on that note, I think credit is predatory, and I think people should abuse the system for free medical care. Which, yeah, if you have no projected need for a credit score for 7 years, because that's the general default drop off of any kind of unpaid bill, yeah, you should just not pay that medical bill. Like, if you look into the laws, they can't detach you for that. It's legally protected. And again, in general cases, the hospital will just upfudge the fucking the cost so that whatever insurance you may have pays what the original bill was. And they pass the rest on, and they expect people to default on them. You can look that up. Hospitals literally expect people to default on medical bills a lot of the time. Yes, Raxus, the system is like totally fact. And, you know, we can sit here and, oh, blame Trump and blame Biden and this and that. And the reality is, the entire system is so twisted and fucked up as it is currently. You know, you could get rid of this person, you can get rid of that person, and you see, yes, well, Europe, I'm not totally, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not totally proficient on how Europe's health system works, but I have heard that most of the, or at least the UK, you know, they basically pay you when you're leaving the hospital. But see, then you also hear about like horror stories, like from Canada. I don't know about the UK, but you hear about the horror stories from like Canada that has socialized medicine. And it's so you need to get a scan for a potential cancer. Well, we can fit you in 18 months. I mean, I don't know how valid that is. Again, I'm not Canadian. Yeah, see, Merton, I would agree with you. The House, the Senate, the other branches of government, they play just as big a role. And realistically, the president tends to just be kind of a face and like a last ditch. You know, he can pull that emergency brake veto if he really thinks what's happening shouldn't happen. But you know, we expect these people to understand the intricacies of these vastly complicated systems. I'm sorry, I think that's kind of insane personally. Like, you know, don't get me wrong, yeah, you can have advisors and you can listen to your advisors, and that doesn't mean you really understand what's being put forward. You know what I mean? And then you take into account a lot of these people in the House and the Senate, a lot of them don't understand shit. I mean, you know, look at their proven competence and understanding of how the internet works, what the internet is. I mean, these people, they'll Pikachu face at you when you like go to the website where someone fucking uploaded a video of them saying some shit that they're pretending they didn't say, and all of a sudden they're like, "What? Ooh, huh, Pikachu face?" Like, guys, did you live better under Biden? Because I lived like shit under Biden. And that's saying a lot, seeing as I live a very heavily self-sufficient life. I raise my own meat. I produce a lot of my own food. I don't pay for eggs, you know, all these kinds of things. And basically everything in life under Biden pretty much canceled out any benefit that came from my self-sufficiency. So, I mean, while arguably I lived the same because I produced most of my own stuff, it costs significantly more to do so, which only eats into like the extras in life. You know what I mean? You sacrifice from your extras before you start trimming off important stuff. Okay, see, now that shouldn't be a thing regardless of which administration it is. You win. Like that should be unacceptable across the board. Democrat, Republican, libertarian, fucking horse in a man costume. This insane cost of medicine shit 100% needs to be addressed, especially because according to Trump, I'm not privy to any kind of inside information or documentation or anything like that. I'm just some asshole here on the internet talking shit and, giving my opinions. But according to Trump, medicine companies charge America more than anyone else. And I get you. You should be still getting your medication. That should not have changed. And the fact that changed, I will cede 100%. That is a valid reason for you to have lived better under Biden. No dispute of that whatsoever. I personally am kind of against the whole rent thing in general, in the sense that, like, you've got these massive companies gobbling up properties, which one could argue is what's driving our housing prices so insane. I think that should absolutely not be a thing. There should not be fucking, what's that company? BlackRock gobbling up fucking housing. That shouldn't be a thing. I fully 100% disagree with the premise of rent. I don't think your brother should even need rent assistance. I believe all things should be geared towards the person at some point becoming the owner of said property. Yes, landlords generally are absolutely a parasite, Fridge. 100%. This property that I live on now, the people I bought it from were landlords. And brother, landlords is being real kind. Slumlord is a better term for the preacher and his wife that this property belonged to before me. None of the appliances worked. The well on the property produced less than 1/4 gallon of water per hour at its best, and at its worst, it produced nothing. So yeah, no, I will agree with you. In most cases, landlords are absolute pieces of shit. I will see that there are a very, very, very few and far between exception to the landlords being a piece of shit. Every now and then you find one out there that actually is a genuine fucking human being with care and concern for other human beings, but most of them are trash. And yeah, Merton, 100%, we need to stem I don't believe companies should be allowed to own property unless it's, like Ford bought 100 acres to build a factory on. That I can understand. Obviously, a company owning land to perform its company business on, that, sure. They should not be able to buy up land to then rent it out to people. And yes, exceptions are always what prove the rule, and that's why most landlords are pieces of shit. But I won't ever say all, because there are a very few out there that are great people and want only to help. So I will never, like the stupid Star Wars movies, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Yeah, I don't believe anything in life is truly absolute, but it can be, 99.9% true. There's usually always the possibility that somewhere out there is an exception. That's horrible. You win, and you should have grounds for a lawsuit. 3 years of having gas leak in the place that you reside, that could have killed you. Like, that should not be okay. That should not be acceptable under any circumstances. Which quote doesn't make sense? The only a Sith deals in absolutes, or that I don't believe anything can be absolute? Holy shit, you win. That, you, bro. Or, I'm sorry, I'm not like trying to whatever. I don't ascribe to the gender politics. I'm from California originally. Bro is just like a word I say for everyone. Like, I call my dogs bro. They're both female. I call my phone bro. So I don't mean any. Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that. That is immensely funny. Yeah, fridge, bro, unisex. It's just everything is bro. If it's hot outside, I'll look up straight at the sun like, bro, why are you doing this to me? So I just wanted, with how people are nowadays, I just didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I was making it, clear. I'm not like trying to imply anybody's whatever, but if that does offend somebody, I'm also not gonna really like coddle to it. I'm just gonna own it. Like, dude, I say bro, and it wasn't intended that way. Take it how you like it. But yeah, no, they shouldn't be. I don't think they should be able to own property outside of what they need to perform business. I don't think companies should be able to buy up fucking houses. I don't think they should be able to buy up land and put up 200 unit apartment complexes. I think all of these things are from the ground up designed to take advantage of the most vulnerable in this country and essentially lock them down into a form of indentured servitude. I think all things, I don't think rent should be a thing. I don't. I think if you're whatever doing payments on some, you should be building towards ownership. It should always be building towards ownership. There should not be this, you can pay me the money to use it. Well, see, I kind of disagree on the condos too. Now, don't get me wrong. I think they should be allowed to build them, and they should be allowed to factor in a payment plan that is enough to cover their company's expenses, operating costs, and a reasonable portion of profit. But I believe in the end, the people in those units should actually own the unit, similar to how some places in New York are, where the people actually now own the unit. That then gives them something tangible. They didn't just throw hundreds of thousands of dollars into someone's pocket and then now they die and a new person gets to come in and continue throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars into another person's pocket. I think they should be building towards ownership. I mean, I can see that, but like on that note, you make it to where you can more or less just cash out your contract. For example, say say whatever, you come in and you like sign a short-term payment plan, something of that effect. We'll call it, $500 a month for 10 years, just for the sake of argument. And you're only doing it because you're going to be, remote working there for a while. Say you live there 2.5 years. You should basically be able to sell out your contract to another person, another party, to pick up and continue it. And, you can negotiate with them. Shut up, Automod. Fridge, I know. I gotta figure out these Automod things. Fucking. The problem I ran into, I'm on 4 platforms. I'm on Twitch, Rumble, Kick, and YouTube, and the Automods don't play nice with all the platforms, so I ended up having to I think I've got several of them, and they're mainly just supposed to be there for the event that somebody says something truly heinous. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they're supposed to be trimming off. They're not supposed to be, reprimanding people for a long message. God, I gotta dig through those settings. I'm sorry. I agreed, Win. I just really don't think that renting is a. I feel it's just at its core, it's not a benevolent thing. At least not as like a long term. Someone's gonna rent from you for 20 years of their life. I don't think that should be a thing. I think people should be always working towards a final being in possession of something tangible. This whole idea that you paid rent, you got to be there. I don't know. I personally think that renting is like from the ground up designed to be predatory, and it is meant to take advantage of the like economically weakest of us. You know what I mean? And then on top of it, the debt system is full of all kinds of weird little loopholes that the rich have found ways to abuse to get richer, because you can skirt a lot of taxes with debt and things like that. I don't think I've got any mods on currently. Hold on, I'll tab over there and take a peek. Oh yeah, no. I just, the left makes it too easy, man. They start acting like these lunatics, and yeah, you just gotta laugh. I generally don't tend to lean heavily to the right. I've always argued I'm more libertarian. I think we should have small government that looks out for the people over corporations, and the country was built by people. Originally it was built by normal ass fucking people. Oh no, a libertarian. I know. I just that would be closest what I align to. I don't think that we should be rolling back child labor laws or any of these things that they like to attribute to libertarians. I just think that the government should be mostly out of people's business unless they're protecting people from things that are malicious, like maliciously designed debt structuring and stuff like that. Oh God, I know. They've made those words like, duh, they're just kryptonite, bro. You say either one of those, and rational people are just like, oh, fuck this place. This person's an idiot. And like, it's just that's the closest thing to really like compare to, because I believe the government should be less intrusive in people's lives, more intrusive on corporations, and things should be stilted towards protecting civilians more than anything else. Don't get me wrong. There should be some minor protections for corporations. Minor. I mean that in the sense of like, this corporation didn't pay that corporation that they contracted. They should have to pay. Not the weird shit we have going on. The system has become so twisted and fucking weird. It's insane. And that insanity is exactly why we got Donald Trump, despite the fact he's a blatant asshole. Like, blatant asshole. I fully cede that. But of the two given choices, Kamala wasn't going to do anything. Kamala had 4 years and didn't do anything. And like a fool, she came out and was like, we're going to keep doing the same thing. holy shit. And you know, that didn't apply. That didn't make people excited. Like, yeah, no, why would they have been excited? She needed to come out and have been like, I had all kinds of opinions and things, and because I was only the vice president, I didn't get, you know what I mean? Yeah, she really needed to like she needed to downplay the amount of control she had during those 4 years and really heavily upplay the idea that despite her best suggestions, other routes were taken. That's the only way I see that she could have garnered like a decent support from people who were in the middle. The problem was that she kind of just came out and was like, we're gonna do it again. Right, Fridge? I don't understand how Kamala made it anywhere as a prosecutor. And like, you know, you hear all these things like, oh, she blew her way to her positions. I don't know if she did or she didn't. The people do, you know, stuff, and it's not always the most moral. And yeah, she really needed to. I think if she'd taken the time to really like come in hard with a line in the sand that was like, that all is them and I'm over here. But she didn't. She came in and was like, 4 more years of the same damn shit at a time when people were hurting and nobody wanted to hear strap in for 4 more years of it. People were looking for anything that they could latch onto for hope. They basically primed the system for just the worst candidates to be able to, you know, just actually make that contact to the people and make people feel seen. Because I'll see, I don't know why they even put in Waltz. Waltz was a really weird choice because the Democrats' major struggle was like young men, you know, 18 to 29 or whatever the category is, and young men were really tired of this like third wave feminism. You're a horrible person because you were born with a Y chromosome. You're a piece of shit by default, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. They were looking for someone that, if not elevating them above, at least was going to come in and say, you're not that. You're just a person the same as they're just a person, and we're all just fucking people. And that's all it took to buy up all those young men, because those young men grew up in this weird climate. They're rapists by default. They're horrible by default. Women are better than them, except if it's a man converted to a woman, then that's better than women again, because Bruce Jenner was Woman of the Year, and they're letting men into women's combat sports where they're dominating, and then they're praising those those men turned women for dominating in a combat sport, and that's insane. Of course they're going to dominate. So like, see, that's the thing, man, is it's not even really leftists. Like the party went so far left, the majority of them now look at people like you and they're calling you the alt-right because you disagree on like one thing. That's all it takes for the modern crazy ultra leftist. You disagree on one premise, you might as well be a Nazi, you know, straight to the death camps for you, because while you agree on 99% of their talking points, that one you don't agree fully. So, you know, be damned. And that's no way to gain people's, you know, trust or faith. You people need to fucking learn to concede. You know, the left shot themselves in the foot, and they're still just doubling down on it, which I don't get. Like, I mean, I understand the things they're talking about are important talking points, but clearly the citizens are tired of hearing it. They've experienced ample of it, and they don't want to hear it anymore. Oh, they absolutely should. I think the modern, insane, ultra woke, psycho leftists should just be called crazy people. Yeah, no, they don't want equality. They want power, and they mask it under these feel good words and terminologies so that they can obfuscate what they're trying to do. But they're trying to drum up the most downtrodden and maligned people they can. And I mean, I get it. I mean, right? I don't know why there's no alt left. There's the alt right, and everybody knows the alt right are fucking crazy ass retarded fucking people like the Ku Klux Klan and retard white supremacists, and you know, and the majority of normal people that would be considered right, we all know those people are morons. All right, them alt right people are fucking shrieking idiots, and nobody pays them any mind. And you know, they can carry on about Trump didn't denounce the white supremacists, but he did, and that's been debunked. Nobody supports white supremacists. They're absolute pieces of shit. See, that's what I didn't get about Kamala too, is she's supposed to be a prosecutor. As I understand, you know, a prosecutor, they're usually like well-spoken people. You know what I mean? Very eloquent and can craft sentences very well and convey information verbally with a great deal of precision. And then like I never understood a thing she was even trying to say. Like, they'd ask her about some simple policy thing, and she'd just go off on some tangent. Oh, well, you know, see, I grew up in a middle-class family. No, you grew up in a rich family that actually owned slaves, Kamala. Which, you know, they like to downplay that, but her grandmother is not related to her, and she was like the elderly maid of color that was the staple in her family's house. I'm sorry, to me, that sounds a lot like slavery or indentured servitude, but you know, that's not my business, not my family. I know my family ain't never had no maids, no servants, no butlers. And at one point, I grew up in $1 million house in LA. We didn't have no maids, no servants, no butlers. And the house wasn't that impressive. You'd kind of be appalled by what $1 million gets you in LA. Honestly, I think Jill from accounting would have probably done better. Like, yeah, I don't know. The level of incompetence they show is it's fucking crazy. And that's why I'm a big supporter of the idea you should have term limits for everybody, not just the president, especially because the president, in the grand scheme of things, is a smaller portion of the government than the House and the Senate. There should be term limits on all the branches of government, in my opinion. There should not be 50-year career politicians. That should never be a thing. That's how we end up in this insanity where a fucking reality TV star like Donald Trump can go out there and fucking rattle off the crazy shit that that man says, and that's who the fucking population like fucking heard. You know, he is who the population felt was best looking to support them. Do you realize how insane of a fucking scenario you have to already be in for Donald fucking Trump to strike people as being the rational voice? That was what just amazed me the first time around. Was like, he's not eloquent. Sure, he's charismatic and he can talk a fucking just a long bullshit. How could they not find anyone, not one person that they could put up that was better than fucking Kamala Harris? Really? Seriously? Like, there are tons of Democrats that would make way better choices. I don't know what on earth drove these people to choose Kamala Harris. And they even knew that by doing so, they were going to totally disenfranchise a huge swath of the Democrat Party. That's the other thing that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like trying to watch people play chess, but they don't know how to play chess, is what it seemed like in my brain. Like, you know, you hear all this nonsense about, oh, checkers, 3D chess, blah, blah. No. This is like, you gave a chessboard to 2 5-year-olds. You didn't tell them how to play chess, and you're just watching the chaos ensue. That's what it felt like to me. You know, what did they think was going to happen? You know, Biden won the majority of the votes for the Democrat primary. Kamala, if I remember right, had like the least votes in the primary. That means there were people in between Joe Biden and her, as I understand. From what I understood, they also did really, really shitty too. Fridge. That's great. But yeah, you know, these people, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how any of it made sense at any stage along the way. The moment you saw Donald Trump starting to gain any support, how people didn't just step back and go, holy shit, what is going on? Like, the problem is far greater than Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Donald Trump is the symptom of an underlying ongoing problem. Like, that's the only way I can really describe the way I see it, is if the system wasn't inherently screwed up in some way, then we would have never had, you know what I mean? Donald Trump would have never been possible. And Fridge, I don't blame you on that, man. All this AI Terminator-esque fucking Skynet shit. Oh, it absolutely has. It 100% has. That's one of the things I think the left fucked up on really, really big, is the trying to deplatform these people. By deplatforming someone, there will be people out there that see that, and in their mind, that tells them the person you deplatformed might have valid points, and you've deplatformed them because you're afraid that their valid points may gain traction. Don't get me wrong. I do not think fascists have fucking valid points. I think fascists are morons. Just talking about the optics that lead to this, exactly as you said, which is true, the creating of more fascists by trying to suppress fascists. What they should have done is much like, what's that one Republican dude? Kennedy or whatever. He's like a total dipshit, but not Robert Kennedy, the other one who's in like Senate or whatever. I can't fucking stand the man 98% of the time. But every now and then he just like says some hilariously funny antagonistic shit. And I think he was talking about AOC, and he was like, I don't even need to discredit her. All I need to do is let her talk. And that's the thing. And then it became this whole joke of fucking Operation Let Them Speak. It's the same way that fascists should be treated. Yeah, you let them speak. Freedom of speech says that everyone should be allowed to speak what they think. That allows the rational of us to see that and be like, that person's an idiot. Exactly. That's what I mean. The vast majority of the masses aren't susceptible or even vaguely fucking interested in fascist ideologies or fascist talking points. And that's what I mean. You let them talk. You don't take the First Amendment. See, you don't abuse the First Amendment and suppress people's speech, because you let those stupid people go out there and you let them espouse their beliefs so that the normal people can see that that person is an idiot. That's how you kill fascism. You let fascists freely talk about fascism, and all the rational people will hear what they have to say and go, that is the stupidest fucking thing I have ever heard. Yes, yes, yes. Mock them. Fucking mock them every opportunity they get. Let them talk. Fuck. Put them on the fucking news channels. Let them say their stupid shit and then fucking mock them savagely. Don't dox and threaten and all this stuff. No, because that has this uncanny way of adding credibility to the nonsense they're saying that has no credibility. But it gives the implication of credibility. By going and attacking it, it makes stupid people think there has to be credibility. Otherwise, why would you attack it? Because if it was totally retarded, you just don't attack it, and everybody hears it and goes, oh my God, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Well, see, I'm not really worried about a loss of democracy in America, because our system is constructed in a manner that makes it very hard to truly supersede. And no matter how much the insane alt-left wants to say so, Trump supporters on the right support this country more than we support Donald Trump. We support the Constitution of this nation more than we support Donald Trump. There's a very large number of Trump's supporters who literally only voted for him because he had the better stance on the Second Amendment, which at a really rudimentary level is him protecting their right to overthrow him and the government by force if they violate the confines of the Constitution and democracy. Yes, exactly, Fridge. It makes it seem like what they're saying has some validity worth silencing, and it doesn't. But you got stupid people out there that'll see that, and that'll make the validity for them. Because they lack critical thinking skills. You know, they're raised on this modern media era of fucking bias fueled talking points, and someone always has to be the enemy, and I think that's a flawed ideology. Nobody is the enemy. Oh, I mean, obviously, except for like an active enemy, of course. But I mean, within like the political spectrum, the left isn't your enemy. There are people with different thoughts on policy. we're supposed to be a nation united. We're supposed to talk and discuss with each other and come to agreements. I think idiocracy unfortunately was a prophecy too, and I think that's low key, in my opinion, that stems out of the federalization of the education system. Like, I agree with Trump that the Department of Education is a totally flawed idea. And while there should be something in the government that establishes like a baseline level for, education to aim for, I don't think the federal government should be controlling the education system. I get like standardized testing and all of that. You should and yeah, exactly, Merton. The Democrats did so very little that who had any faith that they would do something, and they had no good speaker. Joe Biden, even in his advanced age and condition, which I would honestly attribute a lot of it just being the fact that he's 80 years old and being, carted here, there, and everywhere else. That's got to be freaking exhausting. They didn't have anyone even vaguely close to a better speaker than Joe Biden. And that's what they need. Yes, that's the thing. The government should be setting a baseline of what education should be, and that's all. They shouldn't be backing that line down at all. Especially, and on top of it, though, I think the Department of Education was just a dramatically flawed thing due to how much our country has, not even our country, how much the planet has changed since it became a thing. You know what I mean? Very much, I love to point out that left, right, all of these politicians, except for maybe like, AOC and a handful of the very young ones, they have no concept of how the internet works. How can you expect people to run the country and enact policies and be effective when they barely even understand how major portions of a person's everyday life work? Like, the internet was the military designed it, didn't know what to do with it. They handed it off to the fucking public, and nobody could have ever expected the cornerstone of life that computers and subsequently the internet would become. How do we have people in office making policies that don't even understand whether or not TikTok can use the internet? Like, seriously, I watched that whole TikTok thing and them talking and all of that, and the guy's like, "You're not answering me. I asked you, can the TikTok on my phone access my internet?" And the guy's like, "Well, yeah, of course. It needs the internet to work." And then the guy's like, "Oh, see, TikTok's a spot." Like, oh my God. And these are the people that, like, we let make policy for us. Like, they don't understand that TikTok needs the internet to access the servers at the other end to give you the videos on TikTok. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. I think we should have some like, I think we need to set a bit of a bottom line for people becoming politicians too. You know what I mean? Like, you should have to understand at least basically how the internet works and the gist of how a computer works. Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of argument for that, Fridge, for sure. You know, that whole thing is oddly opaque and not openly public, and I don't really like that. Maybe, I mean, I've seen people who claim they've got evidence both ways, every which way from Sunday, that Trump cheated, Biden cheated, Hillary cheated, Obama cheated. Some, you know, if they have the evidence that proves it, then maybe we need to take a look at the judicial system that isn't doing anything about it. Because, like, bro, I'm right there with you. If there's evidence that proves some shit, well, that's evidence. If there's actionable evidence, then take fucking action. You know, just like fucking what's her fucking stupid face, the mousy blonde chick, Bondi, Miss. I have proof that Obama committed treason. Do you, bitch? Do you? If you've got proof, you know what I mean. That is it's a pretty concise claim. I have proof. Show it. Action upon this proof. If this is actionable evidence, action upon it. I mean, yeah, but and this was also very much pointed out the first time around when Biden won. You had the people out there that were like, these machines are entirely unsecured, and you can basically plug a jump drive into the side of it and access its fucking root functionalities. And yeah, no, the machines are totally unsecure, and the whole thing is just a fucking total shit show that, let's be honest, people on both sides have very little faith in. They only have faith in it when their side wins, because you know, like we said, always be cheating, but it's always a big deal when the other team starts winning. No, I heard that. Well, yeah, everybody heard that. It was everywhere. But that's what I mean, though. My point is, they were talking about it when Biden won. They were talking about it when Trump won the first time. We've heard about it back as far as Obama, if not farther, and they don't do anything about it. Is what I'm getting at. It's like, yeah, I bet I'd put my money down right there with you. I bet every single one of them's been a cheat. They always be cheating. ABC, brother, always be cheating. But you only complain about it when you start losing. Much the Republicans only complain about the fucking votes being possibly whatever when fucking they lose. Democrats only come complain, oh, the votes are fraudulent. Yeah, because they lost this time. I think some dramatic changes need to be made to a lot of aspects, because the world's changed. You know what I mean? It's not the 50s anymore. It's not the 70s these politicians grew up in. Fuck, it's not the 90s and the early 2000s that I and some other people my age and slightly younger grew up in. The world is advancing at like an exponential rate. The fact that we rely on people to make policy that are 60, 70, 80, shit, I think Ruth Ginsburg, wasn't she in like her 90s? Granted, she was on the Supreme Court and not directly making policy. She was constitutionally analyzing policy. But I mean, again, still, at the rate the world is advanced, I don't truly think any politicians are arguably proficient in what the world even is anymore. Exactly, yeah, you know, but 100%. Both sides cheat because the other side's cheating. They're always gonna be cheating. If you're not cheating, you're losing. And if you lost, it's time to complain that the other team cheated. And the fact that more people don't understand this, just it baffles me. Like, it completely baffles me that more people do not understand the simple reality that is America's nightmare political system. Yeah, yeah, you know, and that should be what's addressed. 100%. That's what we should be addressing, is the fact that we have allowed this system to develop into an always be cheating fucking game of Monopoly between fucking 5-year-olds. Oh yeah, yeah. The gerrymandering. Oh yeah, absolutely fucking ridiculous in my opinion. But and both sides do it, and it's so funny to watch one side argue with the other side. Oh, you're gerrymandering, you're vote rigging, and then, you know, like right now, all the left is like looking at Texas. You're gerrymandering, you're vote rigging. Yeah, yeah, they fucking are. Where were you Democrats complaining about this when Illinois gerrymandered those weird squiggly fingers that fucking slice across the state of Illinois? Yeah, you didn't care then. Like, and on some level, I feel like people have leaned more Republican now because, like, the Republicans are slightly, very, very slightly less apt to complain about the shit that the Democrats are doing. Like in I live in Oregon. My state was doing some shady thing on gun laws, and our the few Republicans we have, they were like, we're gonna flee, so there can't be a quorum. Basically the same thing that the Democrats in Texas tried to do. My state governor said, you'll be here for the vote, or we'll issue warrants for your arrest. And they all cucked. They all cucked and came back, and the vote happened, and sure as shit enough, lost. And so, yeah, they all do it. And I think the Democrats just making a big deal out of it with lip service right now is doing them a huge discredit, because, you know, the internet is like the bulk of human knowledge all compiled in an area. And it's really easy to, like, bullshit people with faceless platitudes when you know, they have to go down to the library and dig up books and stuff like that. It's totally different to try and bullshit people with fake platitudes when all they have to do is go sit down at their computer and, you know, pop open a tab and be like, Joe Biden auto pen. And then, you know, boom, you got all these things talking about the Joe Biden auto pen, or, you know, insert whatever political claim you may be trying to, like, whatever, you know, like by the same, oh, gerrymander, okay, Illinois districts. Okay, you know, oh, gerrymandering's bad. Yeah, gerrymandering's bad. Okay, is it bad, or is this you, Democrats? What's this? What's this one district that fucking squiggle jiggle fucking alleyway of crack dealers its way across the state of Illinois? Is that not gerrymandering? Was that not gerrymandering when they concocted that? Why did no one care about gerrymandering then? But suddenly it matters. See, it's that disingenuous flip flop that's, I think, is really killing the Democrats right now. Is they're yelling at Republicans for doing things that they did. And the problem is the internet has made it so that people who vaguely recall that the Democrats did it can go punch in a couple of words in a search box, and boom, there you have it. You know what I mean? Pulled the districts right up as of 2023. When did they rework them? I'm not entirely sure, but point being, this was, whenever it was, this was gerrymandering to the max. You know what I mean? To It is. It truly is. It's going to continue getting dumber and dumber until sooner or later somebody like drives for a power grab. And as much as it's fucking horrifying to think about, what do I think is going to end us? I don't know. I don't really think anything's gonna end like us in the sense of humanity as a whole. You know what I mean? We're a very resilient species, but honestly, if people don't get their heads on straight and start talking and like looking to find common ground with the people they disagree with, I think that's going to be what drives it. It's going to drive something to the point that I'd put my money on here in America. You'll see something to the tune of a second civil war catalyzed by who knows what thing. It may be, you know, a grab of power or a revocation of rights, or you know, insert large enough thing to trigger enough Americans. And I'd put my money on the day America goes into the second civil war. That'll be the day you see a lot of things internationally also go haywire, which, you know, like I was saying, America may not have the strength to push around Russia and China and make them kowtow, but the majority of countries out there, America's amply big enough because we're a dramatic portion of their economy, so you can utilize that. The moment America falls to shambles, all of those times that America has put their weight on some other country with threats of will abandon you economically type of thing, that's all going to go right out the window with it. And when that happens, you're going to see a lot of these past grievances and aggressions very quickly boil back to the top. So, in my opinion, I think the downfall is going to stem from instability in America, just because that will open up a lot of doors that America has closed for other countries, and they're going to do what they would naturally do. Exactly. You open it up to just a potential of, we'll call it international anarchy, since it's currently the US is like this weird pseudo world police kind of thing. Oh yeah, that's yeah. That whole thing too, reserve currency. Oh, that it's because we mandated it's the OPEC agreements, the oil producing economic countries thing, that all oil is traded in the US dollar. Honestly, when America was invested in gold, it was a lot better off for itself, debatably. But no, right now the banks run everything. Absolutely, to pretend that countries are even truly countries is kind of low key delusional. You know what I mean? Because like America's money is loaned to it by a company in the United Kingdom. How does that make sense? How is a country's money loaned to it by a company that isn't even part of that country? Like the system is so convoluted and fucked up, it's insane. I mean, it may be. You may not be wrong. You know, that AI stuff, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I just know the people involved in it they're a lot more optimistic than I would be. Shit, I hear about things like, oh, Chat GPT-4 tried to lie to prevent getting turned off. Like, yeah, no, okay, I think it's gone far enough, guys. I don't think we need to let it go any further. Oh, I'm interested to hear it. How long do we got, Fridge? I gotta make my arrangements and prepare for the AI uprising. But on the side note, I think that the end of civilization as we know it is still something that can be prevented if people pull their heads out of their asses. And we might, our stupid species might just still have a slim chance. Oh, and side note, you mentioned my wolf avatar and thought I'd be a Klansman. No, no, my wolf avatar is based off of my pet. My dog Raven is a wolf hybrid. Which, speaking of, I need to go grab her real quick and bring her in and give her her dinner. It is just about her dinner time. I will be right back. Come here. Oh, come up here. Come up here so everybody can see you. So they know I'm not crazy. Yeah. Yeah. My good girl. Yeah. Okay, I'll take you to your bed. Hold on, let me move the wire. All right, my apologies. Yeah, well, I see that being a logical progression as well. We'll jump the shark. I like that reference. That's a good reference. Cashierless shops. Those were those were interesting, weren't they? I mean, honestly, that seems like a pretty astute assessment, like, because that's really all it's going to take is one step too far over that line, and yeah, it'll trigger a cascade, and then once we're cascading, where we stop, only time will tell. But yeah, lately I've been watching quite a bit about the whole Trump Putin thing, because like they're all wigging out, and I thought it'd be an interesting one to talk about. Granted, I've totally gotten sidetracked, which is fine. That's the whole point of these streams, is to talk. So stream success. We got a good conversation going on. Exactly, Merton. Once they pop that seal, like Pringle says, once you pop, you can't stop. Yeah, it ain't gonna stop. Oh, fridge, almost certainly. Even as it sits now, a large number of jobs can already be filled by not even AI, just simple robotics. I mean, they're already getting to it. And have you seen any of these like hype videos over the new programless robotic tools? There's the one that you basically do the thing one time and it like sees you do it, and then it just repeats that over and over again. Oh, absolutely. And on that note, if AI keeps progressing as it is, something like universal basic income is gonna kind of become a mandatory, because unfortunately all the jobs come off the lower end of the intelligence spectrum first. Lower intelligent jobs are just generally easier, they're less complicated, simpler steps. That's why you'll see a lot of the factory work and these things that have generally staples for the majority of people. They're gonna start getting eaten up, and once they get eaten up, there's not gonna be new low IQ jobs. So there's gonna have to be something done. Otherwise, the outcome therein becomes kind of an inevitable. You disenfranchise enough people without something like universal basic income to make their lives livable, those people are going to uprise. If everything's being done by AI, they're probably going to be matched by AI driven counter forces, because, well, the rich aren't going to go out there and do nothing. Why would they? They got a bajillion robots they can pump out. And then things are going to get real weird. Going to get real weird real fast. In my opinion, once things go hostile, predictions go out the window, and they mean very little. So I usually only predict up until about the point that it like kicks off. Because once it kicks off, whatever happens is what happens. We might get a Matrix situation, black out the sun, or we might just full blown get Terminatored and stomped into oblivion. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty solid thing. Problem is, it's not easy to kill 90% of the population, and it's nearly impossible to even consider killing the population in America. I don't think they'd consider any of them, because 1 and 2 is money out of their pockets, but 3 just isn't isn't really possible. You know, low end estimates put private firearm ownership in America somewhere around 450 million. That's 3 times the firearms of every armed service combined. And, you know, oh, yeah, the country will collapse. Absolutely. I don't even doubt that the country will collapse. No, see, I see what I think would happen in America. 1 and 2 are out of the question because that's money out of their pocket. They'd buckle down on 3 because they seem to, at least the government, seems to operate on the idea that its citizens with arms are going to be a pushover. We have tanks and this and that, despite the fact that even in like Afghanistan with 20 years and an unlimited budget, it's still hard to defeat insurgencies. So odds are you'd see the collapse of America, the country, and probably something popping up under the same name akin to what the country was originally. Like, I would assume you'd have the people of America hit a point where they've had enough. They would uprise. Toppling the government of America isn't really as hard as they like to make it seem. You know, they can talk about, well, the military has tanks and drones and airplanes and all of this, and yeah, and they also have families. So you're not going to see a lot of willingness for option 3 within the armed services. While you may have some, you're going to have a lot who go against it. You very well may see several small countries pop up in place of America because we don't all agree with each other out here. You know, so I would totally expect like California probably become its own country, California Stan or something like. Texas, they're huge. They'd probably aim to be their own country. You may have some of their neighbors who have similar ideologies that may want to join. Let me give my dog water real quick. My apologies. All right, I'm sorry. Miss Raven is a complete and total diva. She used to be a film and photo acting wolf, and she really didn't like having a job. I'm friends with her trainer, and she didn't want to do the job. She needed so much additional training to keep her on track that the other actors were falling behind. So she was offered to me just to have and, you know, not work, not do film, not do anything like that. And she just lives a normal life. Total diva. So I'm sorry. I do give in to the demands of my dog because she will just keep at it. Yeah, that's definitely how they'll try to paint it. The problem is it's kind of hard to truly like starve out America. Now places like big cities, they're cooked. They're cooked. They rely on outside entities to get food and all of that. So all of the big metropolitan shining beacons of the flaws of civilization, they will be hit absolutely the hardest by something like another civil war. The people who will be the least affected will be, you know, people like me, the weirdos who live way the fuck out in the middle of fucking some trees. And, you know, the biggest threat to my well-being is like, is that a rattlesnake in that tree right there? Exactly. That's kind of why I became a farmer. Fridge. I just small scale, you know. enough to accommodate my needs and keep me eating good food. Because that's the other problem out here in America, that low key, brother, I think they're trying to kill us. I think they've been at it for a long time. Have you seen the shit that is in our food? Like, I'll give it to the UK. Your country makes sure, for the most part anyways, that you guys get actual food. You know what I mean? The food that's in your food is food. Like, the stuff in food out here is like the last question on a chemistry exam of how do you make a synthetic fucking who knows what. Like, half the shit in our food we can't even pronounce. So on that note, I kind of think they're already exercising option 3, and you got all these conspiracy people out there. They are certain that option 3 has already been in play for a long time, and some of these people, they just strike you as like complete lunatics. Like, oh, they're burning everything down with lasers. I mean, theoretically they could be, but like, damn, bro, I think personally I would like reserve coming out and just saying some shit like that until like I had some solid proof that like proved it, not just like, you see the umbrellas? They didn't burn. They're blue. Oh, and now you're all crazy people because, like, Jesus. Okay, so the fire missed one thing and you're all going to key in on it? Like, oh, all the buildings with blue roofs. Like, that may be true. I don't know if it is or it isn't. It could be theoretically possible. But when you come out and you convey the information like these lunatics, you discredit the whole claim. See, you want to make the theory, you come out and you tell people outright, it's a theory. I think that this could be, these are the reasons I think that. None of this proves anything, but at least it's a semi-functioning theory that can be delved and possibly expanded on and potentially actually culminate in discovering something being actually like intentional. But see, they don't do that. They come out on the fucking TV and they're like, the blue roofs, the blue umbrellas, they're burning everything with blue lasers from space. Like, you can't just come out and say that like you know it. That's why everyone thinks you're crazy. Oh man, British cuisine. That's I don't know. I've never been to the UK, so I don't truly know what qualifies as British cuisine. I just, I hear the jokes on the internet. A bit of spotted dick and whatever else have you, and the consensus that your guys' food is heinous. But I don't know that. And to be fair, is in my opinion, if the food was heinous, you wouldn't be eating it. So hey, a lot of those spices, overrated. There's a few of them that are really, really good, but the majority of them, the average dish can do without. I descend from Mediterranean people and Irish, so like all I know is olives and potatoes, and those are the things genetically encoded in me: olives and potatoes. I mean, if you've got good ingredients, you half the time you don't even need salt and pepper. You know what I mean? If you've got good quality ingredients, that is the taste. That's the flavor. Like, what do you mean? You didn't season this meat? No, this is good meat. The the flavor of the meat is the flavor. I don't have to add something to it because it doesn't have flavor. Like, so, you know, I think you guys get a bit of a hard time on your cuisine. I'm gonna be honest. You guys get you get razzed, but it's all in good fun, I assume, right? Yeah, you know, you're still doing better off than the French. The things the French praise themselves for aren't even French. You know, like croissant. That's not even French. That's Austrian. French people hate it when you tell them that, but the truth is, croissant, as the French know it, came from the Austrians. I don't even think it was originally Austrian. So a lot of the things that are French cuisine, they're actually just good food from all over the world that the French encountered and were like, this is damn good. Let's keep making it. And now people attribute it to the French. Like, no. No. The croissant is not theirs. That's Austrian. And it did it. Is the croissant leavened? I'm not a huge expert on the breads. Oh, what is that? In a kip furl. Kip furl. Okay, yeah, that is not quite a croissant, but it does resemble a croissant. I don't know. I feel the French, they tout their cuisine too much, in my opinion. And a lot of French food is really weird. Like, let's eat a baby bird. Okay. The croissant is a kip furl made of layered dough. All right. Do you mean the real pancake or the super thin ones, crepes? Because crepes are phenomenal, and in that sense, yeah, absolutely. They have definitely hit some home runs, so they have some bragging rights. But to be fair, I personally think every country's got to have a few just like truly killer food stuffs in their recipe books, you know, like, isn't bread pudding English? And bread pudding is good. It's a little bit weird, like, to think about, but it itself is really good. I don't know. I feel that, you know, they give you Brits just a little bit too much of a hard time when it comes to your food. You know, all of us countries all got some weird stuff, you know, especially like America's no one to be talking shit, as we got things over here like pizzle, which is bull penis, Rocky Mountain oysters, which are just bull testicles. You know, yeah, you know, but that's what I mean. Even amidst like hardcore rationing of World War II, you guys still came up with some all right recipes, like bread pudding. Bread pudding is good, and yeah, you know, you had to find something to do with the stale bread. Who cares? It's good. You know, banana nut bread that's just someone found something to do with fucking old bananas. Yeah, and that's the thing though, is a lot of those recipes, yeah, they are good. It's just they sound really weird when you like when you're reading through the ingredients, and like, you know, there's a lot of that in America too. Like what was it? I mean, like a common staple food for Americans during World War II era rationing, and before that the Depression, was like saltine crackers and tomatoes, like just sliced tomatoes. One of my friend's dads grew up in the Great Depression era, and that's like his go-to snack because that's what he ate like his whole childhood, was just like plain white crackers with a slice of tomato on top. That's not a good snack, in my opinion. That's a horrible snack. Uh, Tomatoes have a horrible texture, and I have a little bit of autism, so it makes weird textures of food absolutely unacceptable to me. And tomatoes, top of that list. Mm. All that middle bit of the tomato, unacceptable. My body, it triggers an absolute revulsion. So yeah, no, I'd much rather eat bread pudding. No hate, no hate at all. Bread pudding. I'd eat bread pudding every day before I'd eat tomato on a saltine cracker. That's just me. So yeah, I don't know. I think you guys just get a hard time on your cooking, and then because the ingredients sound weird and some of the names sound weird, and I think you just get a hard time because like some of it just seems so weird, but it's probably really, really good. Because if it wasn't good, you guys wouldn't eat it, right? I mean, logically, like who, you know, if the food was bad, you wouldn't eat it, you wouldn't make it. So the fact that you guys are still doing it, which I mean, oh, the Depression was like 100 years ago almost now. There's got to be some validity to those recipes. You know, you guys wouldn't just keep doing it if there wasn't. Yeah, part of the Putin and Trump thing I wanted to cover, I didn't really get a chance to, but I saw these two, uh, both sides. I think it's both sides. I didn't pre-watch any of these videos, but I wanted to just like laugh at these people calling out body language experts. That that struck me as goofy, and I wanted to see what CNN's body language expert had to say versus Sky News, because as I understand it, Sky News, that's, I'm pretty sure that's Australia, and they tend to be a little more conservative. Like I think they're the ones with that segment they call lefties losing it. So I again I didn't pre-watch any of these, so I don't know what either side's analyst is going to say. I just kind of took it at the face value. One being CNN, you know they're going to be super left. I mean, is he? Because like you go through every president ever meeting Trump, they all kind of vibe the same. Like, to be fair, I don't trust any of them. I just don't. And if he was an asset, why would he be giving aid to Ukraine? You know what I mean? Because under Trump, there has been aid gone to Ukraine. Granted, they had to fight and argue for it a little bit more and all of that, but still aid going to Ukraine. So, I mean, to be fair, in my opinion, all of the politicians, it's not even, there's no opposition across any of them. They're all the same thing in my mind. I mean, he could outright cut funding to Ukraine entirely. His voter base that voted for him, the majority of them would rather not see a single penny go to Ukraine based on the severity of their problems that are going on here in America. Oh, no, he didn't. Because, see, for the aid to go to Ukraine, it had to be agreed on by the Senate and Congress and made as a bill. Well, the president has a very particular special ability, that is to veto. He can kill any bill, even if it has passed the House and the Senate. The president is afforded the right to veto a bill, which means if he absolutely wanted to, he could have said no, veto. As long as he doesn't sign the bill and it expires, it becomes unactionable. So he didn't try his best to stop it, because his best to stop it would have been as simple as don't sign it. It expires under veto, and that's the end of it. And yeah, you could argue that the House and the Senate would, well, they'll just start up another one and they'll argue and bitter and whatever, barter, beg, steal, and concoct a new one, and then it still has to run the same course. Like, it has to pass the Congress and the House of Representatives before it can hit the president's table, and once it hits the president's table, he can veto it. Yes, 2/3 House and Senate will override that, but the House and Senate are both Republican majorities. I haven't heard anything about cutting off of intelligence aid. Maybe you could be right. I mean, it's there's a lot going on to try and stay on top of. If you've got a link of some kind, you could come drop it in my Discord. I would love to read about that. But I haven't personally heard anything about a cutoff of intelligence. In fact, from what I've heard is that Putin was basically crying because the U.S. and NATO and them were supplying intelligence, and he was like getting all butthurt that was unfair, even though his nation's a superpower and he's going up against something the size of a state. I kind of think it makes sense that other countries would be contributing intelligence to that. But I mean, again, I don't know if Trump cut off intelligence or not. I would love to read about that. I don't know. I find the whole Russian agent thing to be kind of a hard sell, because again, he could have very much like done more to like shill out. You know what I mean? Like, especially because a good portion of America doesn't really give a shit what happens to the Ukraine after how hectic the last 4 years were. A lot of Americans are they're kind of right around the same place they were after World War I. They're tired of the international politics, and they're tired of America somehow being inextricably involved in everything that transpires all around the world. And Americans are tired of seeing billions of dollars of tax money go anywhere outside of the country when you have millions of people hungry and struggling and whatever else within the country. It's kind of just the natural direction that kind of thing segues. You know what I mean? And when the people of a nation are becoming more and more burdened by whatever the catalyst actually is, the more burdened the people are, the less they're going to want to see money that was taken from them as taxes then piped to foreign countries to better foreign countries, when in this country you have millions of people starving or on government assistances. You know what I mean? Like, it gets hard for people to justify wanting their government to funnel dollars places that don't help them. You know, the Americans understand the looming threat of communism, as we've had that rammed down our throat our entire lives. We know all of this. We also see from this that Russia is quite the paper tiger, as modern combined arms have kind of left them behind. Well, see, that's the thing, though, is we don't believe that government assistance of any kind is communism. That's just the way the left loves to, like, paint people on the right. People on the right, we believe in, like, the government assistance programs. You know, we believe that if something in your life happened and you're stricken with whatever and suddenly unemployed and unable to take care of your family, there are programs that exist to protect Americans during those times. The problem is, and I'm not saying it's everybody, but there are some, and that's the problem that everyone points to. You have people out there that are absolutely abusing those systems. Like, just recently I saw lots of people on, making their content videos and throwing big old fits that Trump axed their several $1,000s a month worth of food stamps that they've been getting for basically their entire lives, because they don't want to get a job. And, they've been out there making TikTok videos flexing, oh, look at all the food stuff that I get every month with my free food stamps money. And they're like living like kings. But a person working their ass off at the bottom end of society, only bringing home a little better than minimum wage, figure $20 an hour, they're making around 30, 40 grand a year. They make too much money to qualify for any of these assistances, but they can barely afford to pay their bills and feed themselves. Well, that's the thing, though, is it's generally not $1,000. Some of these people are getting $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 because they have 8 kids with no father in the house, which for every kid without a father, you get another uptick in the money you get. You want to know what see, without a bunch of kids, or as a man, the most I could ever qualify for in public assistance would be roughly $260 a month to spend on food. That is the communism government assistance. That's what it offers somebody like me, about $200 a month, maybe $260 if I'm completely disenfranchised, no job whatsoever. If I make more than $25,000 a year, I qualify for nothing. But see, yeah, I know there's a lot to it, but the thing is that it's all about optics, and that's what pisses people off is optics. I'm not saying that these people and their kids shouldn't eat. No, they should absolutely be, getting something. But at the same time, these people also go out and make videos of them buying themselves Rolexes and this and that. So they're making ample enough money to be able to feed all of their children with zero government assistance. But instead, they're intaking government assistance so that they can then spend their own money on themselves, which is abusing the system. The system is there for people who don't have a paying job, who are in a situation where they aren't bringing in any money and can't take care of their children. And yes, very much so. Optics are abused to make people look beyond what the actual problem is and blame. Everybody wants someone to blame, right? You know what I mean? Nobody wants to blame an idea. Everybody wants to point at a person and say, fucking you. The reality is, it's the idea. Oh, but see, that's the thing, though, is they didn't cut food stamps to everybody. They only cut the people who were raking in insanely high amounts, and then they limited the amount of time you can be on these things. I think they're trying to make it a few years of time you're able to collect these benefits, which is ample time to have a child, raise the child to daycare age, and get back into the job market and begin producing your own money and stuff again. They didn't just axe food stamps entirely. They axed these weird exemplary cases of like high end collecting and whatnot. Oh, absolutely not. I don't think there's precision at all. I'm sure there are plenty of fuck ups that happen along the way. Come on now. We've seen the people they hire to the government, especially the people that like aren't elected or just hired. Oh man. We've all been on the phone with a government agency. We know how that goes. Like talking to a shoe that was granted sentience. So yeah, no, I get it. You employ a bunch of retarded people and give them like guaranteed job security, because that's one of the big flaws I see with the way the American government is in all those lower tier things where they're just like hiring, you know what I mean? Like the IRS and FDA, blah 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 acronym agencies, not like the FBI and police and stuff like that. I mean the like benign, more meaningless acronym agencies. Yeah, man, a lot of the people they hire, they're basically a sentient shoe, and whether they make fuck ups or not, being a government employee, they basically have job security guaranteed. Even if they fuck up, they'll generally not be fired or if they're gonna be fired, they'll be relieved of duty in a manner with a severance package that is ample enough that they could just like go fuck off, and they're good for several years. We'll see, but that's the thing though, is nobody will starve to death. The people who actually need it, they will challenge the decision, which will have the system, or the people working for the system, actually look deeper into their case, and they'll see that this person's not getting $4,000 a month. This person's not making money on the side. This person, and then they'll be reapproved for it. And that's basically how it's going. They cut everybody off and made it to where the people have to reapply. That's not a big deal in my mind. You can apply online. Like, basically all they did is they increased the level of scrutiny that should be applied at the application process to now include, further things like, because a lot of things have been skirting taxes under the guise that TikTok money is donations. Donations are generally tax-free. But with the way TikTok works, it's more like a job, in the sense that like TikTok cuts you a check and taxes are sort of accounted for, but not. And it's all just a really weird gray area, because the tax code, when it was written, it never foresaw the world like it is right now. Oh, yeah, no. You apply and your applications get approved extremely fast. An application will be processed through in America in probably a week or two tops. Maybe 3 if you have one of the like weird last names that puts you way at like the back end of a list kind of thing. But no, that stuff happens really, really fast here. Like I know when I was on food assistance when I first moved out to the woods, because like I moved states and a whole bunch of stuff, and all of that leaves you fairly strapped. But yeah, I applied for it. It was approved within like I think 2 weeks, and then funded, and it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to keep food in my mouth. But and then on top of it, there is a lot of just free food in America, which is another thing that it kind of annoys people when it comes to these people with just massive benefit balances. Because if you're making 30 grand a year, you don't apply for that. You can't buy even close to a fraction of the food that these people buy. And yeah, that pisses people off. And the people who are making 30, 40 grand a year and struggling hard as hell, they're relying on free food things like food banks and all of this, which are all also available to these people who are pulling benefits. So it's totally an optics game. It's totally an optics game. Hey, I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure if you don't work, you don't eat ideology is biblical. I'm pretty sure that's like legitimately in the Bible. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that idea like long predates capitalism. On the same note, I'm pretty sure more people have starved to death under communism than have ever starved to death under capitalism. Oh yeah, way predate America, but I just mean, I think if you don't work, you don't eat thing, I legitimately think that is like Old Testament Bible type stuff. So like way prior to way prior to capitalism in that sense. But yes, no, I do agree that a lot of the train of logic has some flaws in the track for sure. But I mean, again, though, of the available systems, communism has starved significantly more people than capitalism. And in a lot of cases, communism starved them intentionally because the inherent undermining of people's will to work when everything is just handed to you. I'm not saying it was just Stalin. Millions of people died under Mao. Millions of people died under Pol Pot. I mean, basically, like, choose a communist leader, and there's some pretty significant graveyards that each of them purchase atop. I mean, see, that's the thing. What do you want to call model communism? How many times do we need to try the same thing and it result in genocide before we start to think, maybe the common denominator here is the flaw? We can sit here all day and be like, oh, well, Stalin wasn't real communism. Mao wasn't real communism. Pol Pot wasn't real communism. Well, what is real communism? How about we start at that? What is real communism? And how do you make real communism actually work? I think that's the way a person should start that kind of a discussion. We could sit here and say that, oh, well, that wasn't real. That wasn't real. That doesn't help anything. People don't want to hear the picking apart of what was without an idea of what's to come. Like, people can see the past. The past is constant. So to tell people, oh, that wasn't real communism, or he was a bad communist, okay, then you need to have something to prove that. And there's not really a lot of examples that anyone can point to prove that. Yeah, sure, you've got some mildly communistic things in America, some socialist policies. I mean, maybe. Well, see, the problem I see with communism, and this is my opinion, you can't start communism without having had capitalism first. Communism needs money from somewhere to consume. You can't start with nothing and go into communism. It's never worked that way. Communism has always required a precedent of capitalism to build the nest upon which communism will attempt to sit. And time again, communism has proven, despite its best efforts, and in some cases going clawing and screamingly dragged out the room, it just can't pull it off. Russia failed. They're a very large volume wise nation, which arguably at the time should have been able to be fully self-sufficient, yet under communism somehow it wasn't. And and then you look at China, they're a good example. They're at least still driving the communist train currently, and I guess you could argue they're at least a decent example of how you could kind of make it work, because they've kind of pulled in some capitalist ideas to keep the communist train running, you know what I mean? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't have capitalism if your customers ain't got no money, and communism becomes most untenable the larger it gets. Yeah. Yeah. Truth. Very, very, very true. China is a mix of the two. That's what I was saying. China has seen that pure communism in and of itself can't sustain itself. It needs some aspects of capitalism to feed on. And that's kind of the thing. That's why the social policies in America are mostly successful, is because they have a strong capitalist system upon which they can feed and extricate that economic value from without killing the host. So like in that sense, the way I'm arguing it anyways, it would make communism seem very much parasitic, but it's more symbiotic. You know what I mean? Like, realistically, true capitalism could not exist without some pieces of communism, and true communism cannot exist without some pieces of capitalism. And you have a spectrum in the middle that will say swings from heavier communist to heavier capitalist, and you have a lot of things in the middle that work. But at a certain point to either end of that spectrum, you cross a point where it stops working. You know what I mean? Like, you could be purely capitalist, and at some point, like you said, people just ain't got no money to buy shit. You ain't gonna sell shit. So yeah, you hit a certain point where capitalism in effect is a self-poisoning well, as the constant drive for greater profits and lower overhead and all of these things lead towards AI and unmanned facilities, and that's literally capitalism undermining itself, right? And I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, in America, it's kind of weird because, like, we have 50 states. Within the states, you have counties. You've got these like multi-tier structures of people who are able to make laws that regulate, sort of their tier. And in some cases, those laws can be totally counterintuitive. Like a good example, I'm very familiar with firearms law, so I use them for examples a lot. But like federally, suppressors are an NFA, National Firearms Act, regulated item that requires a certain background check and paying the government a $200 tax stamp. That law is written as part of an interstate trade agreement. So Texas, the state, passed their own law that any silencers made in Texas, sold in Texas, and not sold to any other state were exempt from that NFA regulation. Obviously, the ATF went absolutely not. We want our $200 per application. We'll see you in court. Texas took it to court, and based on the way the law is written in the National Firearms Act, it is entirely geared around interstate commerce. So by these components never leaving the state, interstate commerce never applies. So that federal law was circumvented by a state that read the law in detail and enacted their own law that adhered to their circumvention. So yes, it gets very complicated and confusing based on, you know, what state you're in and then what county you're in within the state, because you have like extreme cases like California is mostly a Democrat state, mostly blue all the way across. It's got a few counties that are like hardcore staunchly red. And those little counties, they kind of pass their own little laws that are odd and whatever, but they're within the, you know, the way the government allows them to make regulation for their county. So yeah, the US system is a very confusing mess of things that kind of weave in and out of the lane as they go along. But in my opinion, capitalism and communism, neither one could survive without portions of the other. The hardest part is finding that good medium in the middle. Yes, exactly. Both of them, if left unchecked, they are totally self-undermining and self-destructive systems. 100%. Because if you go purely capitalist, at some point, human life becomes meaningless and it doesn't matter. All that matters is the money, and the people at the top have the money and they say what goes, and that's absolutely an untenable position, as well, optics, and people will get real angry at some point, and you know, sooner or later you're gonna have people who just done had enough and they're gonna start doing wild shit, and then you're gonna be, oh, Pikachu face. Why are they doing terrorisms? Well, they're doing them because they're pissed, and you're moving on with just disregard, and now they're coming to give you a reason to regard. That's how it happened. You know what I mean? You look at any country that has revolutioned from its like captors, and time again, that's the thing. See, I think communism would only be able to truly function in like a utopian reality where you have like AI that does basically everything. Otherwise, it's not. I mean, groovy, yes and no. Some leftists aren't totally communists, and some of them totally are, and they're all kind of crazy because the left has just gone so far left that they're kind of all crazy. I mean, to be fair, this video was originally going to be more about like their crazy, just insane reaching nonsense from both sides due to the Trump meeting, but we've kind of derailed. I'm not a communist. I believe in like I believe in pretty staunch capitalism and the barter system. I personally think the barter system is by far the best way to do things, which is, you know, don't get me wrong, totally outdated and comes with a whole slew of fucking problems when applied to modern society. But I personally think that the barter system was the best. See, I don't think Trump would. Oh, see, that's the thing, man. I'm an American. I would never even think about it that way, Fridge. If my fate is to starve, then I'm gonna starve fighting. And you know what I mean? I'm gonna become somebody else's fucking problem. If they think they're gonna starve me into nothing and that's how they're gonna do it, no, sir. You're gonna see I'm gonna make it other people's problems. You're not gonna starve us. Absolutely not. And I personally think everybody in every country should hold a similar stance. If your country has decided they're going to starve you out, absolutely not. You go down kicking and screaming, bro. Fight like you're the third monkey on Noah's Ark and it just started to rain, brother. Fucking, you fight dirty. You fight any way you can. You don't go along with anything trying to erase you. No nation should. I don't think anybody ever should. I think the people, that's why I mainly will vote for whoever best supports the Second Amendment in America, because that is like the one thing that we ostensibly have that protects us from them. And any politician who is supportive of the Second Amendment, I see that in one. That means one thing to me optically. A politician who is supportive of the people's right to own weapons, especially things like AR-15s that the left hates, military grade. Absolutely, the people should be allowed to own that, because that's what keeps their government from fucking eradicating them. That's what protects us from them. I mean, maybe. Honestly, I find potheads tend to be fairly passive, but their ideologies can be massively flawed, but they're at least, yeah, you know, they're not out there attacking people and shit. So, you know, but arguably, yeah, I could see it. I personally find the whole war on drugs to be a kind of a flawed ideology. Much the same, you know, the government tried a war on alcohol. Oh, well, see, that's the thing. Everybody wants to talk like, oh, that's the favorite argument of the left, my friend. Oh, the military, they've got jets and tanks and advanced bombs and drones, and yeah, you know what? You're right. They do. They employed those in Afghanistan for 20 years. Spent 20 years, countless billions of dollars to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. Clearly, they're great at it. The problem that comes up when you apply that to, say, an uprising insurgency in America is those soldiers have families. Those families are in America. Those soldiers aren't going to want to. See, that's the thing, though, is it's not about fighting the military, because the military won't go with it. Sure, you'll have some who do, absolutely. The majority aren't going to, because again, they have families. Their families aren't on Air Force bases, aren't behind armed guard, their families aren't protected. That's the ideology that the right operates on, as it's been espoused many times. You know, you're talking even military veterans. It's just that it's not going to be that. Well, that's the thing, though, is it won't be necessarily the people of the military. The weapons aren't for fighting the military. They're for fighting the politicians who seize power. Sure, those people may be able to garner some degree of military support, but a lot of the American military are American citizens, and they have families, and their families are American citizens who these politicians would be, in effect, telling them to oppress. You know, would you oppress your family member because you're in the military and that's your job? No, we don't need guns to fight the military. We have guns to fight a tyrannical government, as is written in our Second Amendment. An enemy, both foreign and domestic. They're talking about an overreaching tyrannical government, which, yes, the government will attempt to utilize the military. They will not be able to utilize the military at full force, because that military is American citizens, and the citizens they're trying to target are going to be related to those people. I mean, no, all you need to fight Nancy Pelosi is a nice bottle of wine. You know what I mean? Like, let's be real. You wanna disarm Nancy Pelosi? You bring her a nice bottle of wine, she's on. I mean, it is what it is, in effect. What was the American Revolution? It was just people and their weapons versus the people who were listening to the British king. And in effect, it'll be the same thing. Like I said, you will have some percentage of the military who is willing to go along with it, but you won't have all of the military. So at no point would you be dealing with the full might of the American military. And yeah, they did. And that's what I mean. You would be dealing with the military who stays loyal to the tyrannical government, but that wouldn't be all of the military. And even as it stands, all of the U.S. military is, I think it's around 1.5 million people, I think, roughly. And that's including non-combat roles and everything else. America holds something to the tune of 450 million privately owned firearms. That's basically a gun and a half for every U.S. citizen. You know, yeah, you may not be able to outright beat a tyrannical government and the U.S. military, but 450 or 300 million fucking killer drones and nukes. See, that's the thing, though. You're not going to go after anything with nukes. They're not. You're not going to use nukes. Like, they can't. Nukes damage the total environment all around the detonation point. That's entirely unfeasible. Not to mention, if any one country launched a nuke, you're going to trigger all kinds of nuclear safeguards of other countries who, you're going to hope that they sit around to see where your nuke lands? Like, no, they're going to see a nuke leave America into the air and go, oh shit, and nukes start flying. No. See, you're obfuscating what I'm saying. I said the majority of the military will not get involved because their family members are American citizens. That would be their command, is telling them, go oppress your family members and kill anyone who opposes that. Yeah, no, not all of them are going to go along with it. They're not. because they're not going to oppress their family. And on the side note of that, you have the thinly veiled threat that a lot of alt-rightists like to use. Well, no, see, we don't need them for that. That's just why they're protected in our Constitution. We don't need millions to achieve that. We just need that right protected to facilitate such things. Does that make sense? See, the hope therein is that because the population is armed, in fact, is armed more than threefold better than the entire global military machine combined, that is a deterrent. See, that's why Americans don't want to give any ground. See, hey, we don't need to buy them, my friend. We own them. 450 million is the low-end estimate. High-end estimate is somewhere between 600 and 700 million privately owned firearms in the United States. And that's just the things they regulate. In the United States, did you know you can build your own artillery field gun? And as long as that gun does not take a single piece form of ammunition, so, you know, think big casing with the slug in the end of it, as long as it's not a single piece ammunition, there's not even regulation on it. If you build an artillery field gun, basically akin to a World War I design, which, let's be fair, is still extremely, extremely effective, there's no form of regulation on it whatsoever. In fact, according to the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, as long as projectile and propellant are separate, that's a toy. None of them, exactly. That's why Americans don't want to cede even an inch on Second Amendment rights. Because in order to pull a tyrannical government move, you generally have to disarm your population, as was seen under Stalin, as was seen under Hitler, as was seen under countless regimes. Trump supports my Second Amendment right. Of the two options, Kamala posed a larger threat to my Second Amendment rights, which in my mind, I interpret that as whichever politician best supports the Second Amendment is essentially, in a really roundabout way, defending your right to shoot them if they try to become tyrannical. See, why would a nation disarm its people if it wasn't looking to oppress them? Why would you declaw your cat unless you were going to do something that might make it scratch you? And yeah, Fridge, you're right. I think we actually have more than just a third party. I think there's something like 5 or 6 in America, and short of Democrat and Republican, the other ones are pretty much, realistically, you could argue, a waste of time. Well, no, the Second Amendment is what protects the entire Constitution. The Second Amendment is how the people, the Constitution limits what the government can do. It doesn't limit the people. See, that's the thing. The Constitution is the chains that bind the government. The Second Amendment is the insurance encoded in those chains to allow people the ability to even be able to attempt to resist, which, when you expand that number to 300 to 600 million firearms and a nation's entire military force across all branches accumulating to only around 1.5 million people, I'm sorry, you can pick 4 states in America and find nearly 10 times as many competently trained firearms users. And let's be honest here, the majority of the armed forces aren't what I would call competently trained firearms users. You know, these aren't precision hunters. They pass basic proof of usage. So, yeah, arguably, privately owned firearms do make a fairly significantly large hurdle for a government to overcome if they were old Zeb's got a lot more than his 22, my friend. As a person who lives in the backwoods and worked for an auction company that sold firearms, most of them old Zebs, they got Barrett 50 cals and crazy redneck shit and like homemade explosives. Like your average off the deep end redneck is basically an ISIS fucking member who just wants to mind his own business. That's about the only difference. Is he doesn't want to force anything on people, but he ain't gonna have nothing forced on him either. I mean, a 50 caliber being owned is enough to keep most SWAT teams from serving no-knock warrants. I know the SWAT team out here. I spoke with the police many times. Obviously, I worked at an auction that sold guns for the police. Yeah, no, things like that. Yeah, no, they think twice. It's just a variable. They don't like variables. And black helicopters, people aren't really afraid of black helicopters. That's the whole thing. Like, see, that's where the difference lies. Is everyone wants to talk about, oh, black helicopters, oh, the ATF, blah blah, Ruby Ridge, Waco, this and that. Those are extreme examples, and those don't reflect the general population. Those reflect weird, nearly extremist like sects within the country. That's not quite the same. And realistically, it's intellectually dishonest to compare the two, because obviously the people at Waco, the Branch Davidians, were kind of fucking madmen. I mean, communist zombies? That's an interesting thought premise. To the best of my knowledge, I thought the whole zombie thing spawned out of like Haitian hoodoo and stuff. Although I guess there is a solid argument to be made if you believe in like hardcore deep conspiracy. There's a whole theory out there that the CIA's been making zombie corpses for a long time. I mean, arguably that'd be a fairly straightforward one, right? Yeah, zombies, like legitimate zombies. But I mean, to be fair, it's just it's a staple of America. It's what this nation was built on. So, I mean, no, never discount ninjas. They could be in any room, in any shadow. I know how they operate, bro. They are the shadows. Like, my bed is touching the floor. I still look under that thing for ninjas. You never know. Last thing I want to do is think I'm safe, catch a shuriken. Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't need 10. One and a couple extra magazines is usually plenty. If I can't do it with that, then the ninja, he earned it. And, you know what I mean? All I'm asking for is a sort of fair chance. You know what I mean? If he bests me, he bests me. That's fair game. You can never discount ninjas. They're always there. Exactly, right? Yeah, the moment you like think it's a ninja, he's not today. I mean, in a lot of places in America, shuriken are outlawed. Which I think is kind of weird. To be fair, though, there are a lot of weird things in America that are outlawed because, like, a movie came out in the 80s and politicians were like, oh my God. Yeah. And in a lot of states, shuriken, not legal. Firearm, legal. how that makes sense, how anyone thought that made sense, I don't know. I have no idea who was like, we let them have guns, but this sharp little star, absolutely not. Yeah, in many states, brass knuckles, absolute no. In a lot of states, switchblades, absolute no. Even you know the old Italian style, it swings out the side. A politician somewhere saw it in a movie and they went and out come the bans. That's the same reason that we outlaw that piece of shit fucking shotgun. What is it? The one made in South America, or not South America, South Africa. I'm sorry. It was banned in the assault weapons ban of '94, like by name, and it's a total piece of just crap. Yeah, because they don't like to hype that stuff. It's not even like arrested. You just get like it's basically like a fine, and you know they take it away, and you get your lame little fine, and it's like it's not really a big deal. It's kind of the laws they use. They just like to stack that shit on. America's got a lot of laws like that, honestly, where like you committed X crime, but you also committed, you know, W, Y, and Z because little weird laws that scab onto the side. Like if you rob a liquor store, that's one punishment in itself. If you pulled out a gun while you robbed the liquor store, that now adds on, and it's a new thing. If you fired the gun while robbing the liquor store with the gun, it is now a third thing that tacks on. If you told the clerk to move to the side and you forced him to move anywhere, that technically meets the legal definition of kidnapping. And if the DA wants to really stick it to you, if you made the clerk of the liquor store you were robbing with the gun you fired, if you made him move one step, even 1 inch, you moved him by force, they can actually press that all the way through as a armed kidnapping charge. Even though you didn't take them nowhere, you moved them by force. I don't have, wait, hold on. I got something that just runs hand in hand with what you just said and is funny, and I love me some comedy. Please bear with me. It's in my sound alerts on Twitch. Hold on. I gotta trigger it for you though, just because I have to. It's just so good and applies so well to what you just said. Come on. What the fuck? Oh, Twitch. Why you gotta be such a pain? Oh, Twitch, you're such a bad program sometimes. Well, at some point it'll trigger Iron Mouse carrying on about crimes and goofy stuff. Give it a... My God, sound alerts, did you like fully depair from the channel? What is wrong with you? Well, whatever. It'll trigger off at some point, so if you hear what sounds like an anime VTuber shrieking about stuff, know that that's the sound clip finally getting around to playing. But, God, what was that? I was trying to remember the shotgun that was banned. It's not even a good shotgun. It's a bad, like, it's poorly made, it's poorly performing, everything about it is like but it was like specifically named by name in the '94 assault weapons ban. And it's just a piece of shit. Like, it's an absolute piece of shit shotgun. come on, AI, give me the name. Was it the street sweeper? Let's see. Street sweeper shotgun. Yes, that's the striker, the Armsel striker. Absolute piece of crap. Absolute piece of crap this Amsel Arms striker is. It's basically a double action revolver trigger strapped onto a really badly made shotgun revolver thing. That stupid, ugly, giant, clunky, chunky pump shotgun outlawed by name in the 94 assault weapons ban, because in the 80s it was prominently used in action movies because, like, it looked cool. All right, straight dead ass. They outright banned a weapon that, for one, isn't very effective, isn't very anything, and they banned it just because it was in movies, and the movies made it look scary. That's the same deal with brass knuckles, shurikens, tons of things. It was in a movie, and the movie made it look scary, and the politicians were afraid of it, and they, by name, banned it. I don't know. I personally don't think banning things achieves realistically anything. If somebody's going to be violent, they're going to be violent. They don't need a gun. And a gun doesn't necessarily make it any easier. You look at IED explosions all over the Middle East. Was it an issue of access to guns? No, it was that they just simply understand generally an explosion's a lot more effective than a gun. Generally, you can make that kind of stuff at home, as countless terrorist organizations have kind of shown. Bombs work better than guns. Well, yet you could still get pretty much all the things you would need to acquire to cook up some sort of homebrew Timothy McVeigh psycho bullshit. So, I mean, does outlawing guns really stop anything? You know, I get the whole argument, oh, blah, blah. If you banned guns, you'd have less of this, but would you really? I mean, you know, a great example from the UK, no less, the Ludi submachine gun, designed in 1964 by Philip Andrew Ludi, an English activist who was opposing British gun control. He built a fully functioning 9mm submachine gun with clear step-by-step instructions, as archived here, on how to make a fully automatic 9mm submachine gun out of crap you buy at the hardware store. So, I mean, arguably you could ban whatever you want. That doesn't change the fact that these things are still exist, and they, you know what I mean, that the ideology exists. Some sort of combustible to generate pressure to drive a projectile. Congratulations, it's a gun. I mean, it doesn't have to be cartridges. It can be things like the gyrojet, where the propellant was inside the projectile. You know, it could be compressed air weapons. Nowadays, you can get pellet guns that are 32 caliber and shoot as hard as a 30-06 rifle. That's an air gun. You know, archery, arguably legal in the majority of countries. A traditional longbow hits as hard as a 30-06. You know, that's the whole thing. I don't think that banning our items arbitrarily is ever going to truly achieve something, because it's all easily circumnavigatable. You can find your way around anything. That's why I tend to say that I lean more libertarian. I think a lot of laws exist for like the stupidest of reasons, and they really serve very little benefit that they tried to serve. I mean, I understand, you know, These things are done with good intentions. I get it. Exactly. Yeah, we blame the item and not the person. Well, if the person wasn't crazy, then them having the gun isn't any kind of risk. You know what I mean? I'm a firearms owner. I've never harmed any person or any living thing with a firearm in my entire life. I'm not even like real big on the idea of hunting just because like I like animals, but like I understand why hunters hunt. I'm not some fucking retard leftist who's going to try and force all my ideologies on people. I understand people have their own beliefs and hunting is allowed. I like fishing. Fishing is just hunting but for fish. So, you know, I'd be a massive hypocrite to pretend that, oh, hunters are horrible, but like I've caught and ate fish, so it's no different. You know, while I may personally not be an avid hunter, I do like to fish, and that's the same thing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they're different. No. So, yeah, you know, if a person wants to go do some crazy and heinous stuff, unfortunately, they're going to do some crazy and heinous stuff. It could be with a firearm. It could be with a sharp piece of metal. It could be with a glass bottle full of spicy volatile chemicals. It could be somehow, you know, a detonating mechanism. It could be any number of things. It's the thing. You'll never what's the word I'm looking for? Not legislate. Well, I guess legislate is kind of laws too. You'll never legislate crazy people out of crazy actions. It doesn't work. If a person is committed to they want to do something heinous, unfortunately, they're going to find a way to do something heinous. It is what it is. You can blame the item, and then, you know, look at the UK. They banned firearms. Heinous stuff happens there still. People getting crushed by trucks and acid attacks, and the Chinese banned firearms, and they have mass stabbing attacks. So the reality remains the same. If a person is going to go full tilt off the deep end, gun, no gun, they're going to find a way to get it done. And realistically, a gun does not make it any more efficient. In fact, a lot of cases, using a gun takes a lot more effort and draws it out for a lot longer time, which allows for better opportunity for intervention. You know what I mean? You look at Timothy McVeigh and the federal building, snap, a fraction of a second. That was it. That's the reaction time in play. The moment the plan started rolling, you know, the detonation sequence was triggered, you had a fraction of a second. That was it, and then it was over. What was done, and that's it. There is no way to stop something like that. And you see cases where, you know, someone tries to go dipshit freaking mass attacker in a mall, and somebody with a legal weapon stops it. That attacker had been, say, a, you know, ISIS extremist with a spicy vest on. There's no intervening. You know what I mean? That's once it's set, it's set. Once it rolls, it's rolling, and it doesn't stop. So, yeah, no, I disagree with other countries and their ideology of banning guns being anything more than a way to impose control over their citizens. Much like you see in the UK. You guys, you know, they're putting people in jail for praying silently within a certain proximity of like an abortion clinic. Like, what? I'm sorry. I think you should be able to pray to whoever you want, whenever and wherever you want, especially if you're doing so quietly to yourself. So, you know, much the usual. People have different views. People prioritize things differently, and we all see things differently. That's why we should all talk. That's why discussion is good. This is how we grow as people. We talk to the other side. I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with me. The only thing that we have to agree on is that both of us are people. we're allowed to have our own opinions and feel strongly about the things we feel strongly about, and we deserve the respect due from one person to another person. I don't have to respect your ideologies. I don't have to respect your beliefs. No. The only thing I have to respect is that you, the person, feel that those things are important enough to hold the stance you hold, which I do. I have respect for the people I talk to, and I believe wholeheartedly that they, in good faith, believe the priorities that they prioritize are most important. Much the same that I believe what the things I prioritize are most important, and that we are all entitled to that. We're all entitled to our opinion and to be able to speak our minds freely. I think the moment anything attempts to stem that or limit a person's ability to do that, nothing good can come of it. Nothing good can come from silencing your opposition. Sure, you won't have to go out and argue, but it won't make things better. Long term, you'll just inadvertently grant validity to some of the insane things they're claiming. And like me and Fridge talked about it quite a bit in the early part of this stream. Like, you know, the current surge of fascist beliefs, a good portion of it stems from the anti-fascist movements trying so hard to silence the pro-fascist movements. Don't get me wrong, fascism, absolutely horrible. But like me and Fridge discussed, when you start to suppress them, that makes stupid people think maybe they've actually got something valid to say. Why are they trying to silence them? You wouldn't think they'd be silencing them if what they're saying was outlandish and clearly wrong. So why are they silencing them? That's why it's best to let people speak. Then those fascists can espouse their fascist nonsense, and you hear it and you go, oh my God, that person's a retard. Don't listen to what they have to say. Yeah, I think very much so. Fascists, Nazis, all these insane people, alt-left, alt-right, alt-up, alt-down, you name it. I think people with extreme views should totally be allowed to voice their extreme views so that the world can see they are not well. See, that's how you conquer these ideologies, is you let them try their hardest to sell themselves. And when nobody buys, that kind of tells you what you need. Everybody saw the ad. It didn't sell. Nobody's buying it. Nobody wants fascism. Take that shit and stuff it. And you know, they want to call everything fascism now. Everything's fascism. If it's not hardcore to the T leftist talking points, you're a fascist. And that's how they undermine themselves. The leftists hate each other if they don't agree 100% across the board. And holy shit, you mean fucking hating your own party because you disagreed on one thing will push people away? Yeah. Yeah, an outright obstinance and refusal to have conversations and look for middle grounds and reach, you know, concessions between groups absolutely fuels hatred, fuels division, fuels all of it. Fuels that underlying feeling that people need to stick it to you because you silence everything else. And it's what happens. Oh my, this is a 3-hour stream already. Merton, hey, thanks for the follow. I don't know why it just popped up in the Twitch thing now. Probably because I piggyback my stream through Rumble first and then it repeats out to Twitch. But thank you for the follow, man. I really appreciate it. And I've greatly enjoyed this conversation today. I'm probably not even gonna address the rest of what I had planned for this video because this has turned into just a really like interesting conversation. I kind of just wanna button this one up and put it up as it is. You know what I mean? I think some really interesting things were discussed today, and I want to thank you guys for sure. Like, this is in my opinion, one of my favorite streams I've done to date, and it's been a lot of fun having you guys here to like discuss all of this with. I I'm probably gonna try and do more of these political type streams in between my normal BS game streaming nonsense. And yeah, I want to thank you guys though, 100%, all of you, even even Groovy. No hate. We don't have to agree on things. That doesn't mean I think less of you as a person in any way. I'm very grateful that you came in and we got to have some conversation of ideas that don't necessarily meld seamlessly, and I think that's good. I'm glad you came in today. I hope you consider dropping a follow and dropping in on future streams, because I think we could have some really interesting conversations, like how the shurikens being outlawed. That's kind of just a weird little pop-up thing that made for a really good little bit of back and forth. Silly, totally silly. Oh, the shurikens, they're so dangerous, but here's your gun. So, yeah, I just want to thank you guys all. Like, I really do appreciate you all stopping in. Probably gonna wrap this up here, grab myself something to eat, and I may pop back on a little bit later. If any of you guys are still around, you're always welcome to drop into my streams. Even if it's a game stream, I'm always open to talking politics or current events or any of this kind of stuff. So please, like, I am giving you open invitation. Drop in anytime. Bring any talking point you want to discuss, and we can discuss it happily. I will gladly discuss anything with anybody. I mean, my normal stream title is like, let's talk, bring your favorite discussion points. So yeah, again, thank you guys all so very, very much. I hope to see you guys in the future, and anybody who watches this after it becomes a VOD on the various platforms, like, follow, subscribe, comment, drop links to information you want me to cover at some point, and anything. I love this kind of thing. As weird as that may seem, I really do enjoy talking about these things with people. It's a lot more fun to talk about this stuff with people than it is to just like dissect the stuff online. So yeah, thank you all again, and I truly do appreciate every single one of you. And stay feral, fam. Don't let nobody control you. You were born with the knowledge you need inside you to know what is right and wrong, and brother, if it feels wrong, it probably is. So trust that feral animal you have inside of you sometimes. It's not always so far off base. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you all so